welcome to In Your Schools. Tonight we will be talking about Walden III with our guest, Dr. Jack Parker. Now, could you tell us a little about the history of this sometimes controversial school?
Well, yes, I guess it is controversial, especially back when we started. Actually, the idea for the school was born back in about January of 1970, and Dr. David Johnston, who now works for La Crosse Public Schools, and myself began to develop the idea of starting a public alternative high school. It took us about a year and a half to take it through the various channels, providing community support, and finally getting board approval of the program. The school opened in 1972 at the old McMinn building on the corner of State and Lake, which is now the McMinn Towers and parking ramp. And we opened that first year with only 11th and 12th graders, about 150 students, and since that time have continued to grow and expand to our present situation. The major expansion occurred the year the schools desegregated in 1975-76, when Walden moved from the McMinn building to the Franklin School building where we're presently housed. We doubled our size at that time to about 400 students, added 4 grades, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, and have continued to operate at the Franklin site since that time.
Now, with the explanation of where the school got its name, we've got some footage of the school, which you can look at while we're explaining more about the school.
This is our Phi-Ed class. We're just beginning second semester, so this class was just forming. Here's one of our Phi-Ed teachers, Willie Maryland. Does an outstanding job working with a fairly limited facility, but doing a fine job with the students. This is a badminton class. Here we're in our library. Our library, although small in size, does have a good collection and is well used by the students. I think the attitude of informality with the same time encouraging students to use it is important. And we also expand the use of our library with the alternative school idea of using community facilities. So students also do research at the Racine Public Library, at the Parkside Library, and other locations where collections like this are kept. So the idea of an alternative school to use the community is used quite a bit by Walden students as they look for materials and do any kind of research they need to do. Here we have a shot of one of the most different things about Walden III, our graduation requirement called the rite of passage. In addition to the regular district competencies of math, reading, writing, and American government, requires students to demonstrate proficiency in 18 additional areas. And the way they do this is by having individual presentations with a committee made up of 2 teachers, a fellow student, and an outside adult. And in this case, it is the student's parent who is participating. And it is up to the student in each case to make a presentation in one or more of the various areas of the rite of passage, and then to have it evaluated by the members of the committee. So this is a very valuable kind of experience for a senior, really challenging them to show their best as far as whether or not they're ready for graduation, rather than the approach of only showing a minimum competency. And it's because of our small size that we're able to do that kind of thing. Here we have a hallway shot with some of the banners that are erected on the first floor hallway. The banners are located outside of classrooms, and they are symbolic of what kinds of courses are taught in each of the classrooms. We have penmanship there, I think driver education. And then here's a long shot of the first floor hall. You will see, although this is a time when students are just finishing passing the class, you will always see students in the halls at Walden. That's because we do not schedule study hours. When students have an open hour, they are free to spend it in the halls if they like. This is our special 7th and 8th grade program called the Foundation Circle, where we operate as a transition from the self-contained elementary classroom to the secondary type classroom, and in the morning our 7th and 8th graders get instruction in the basics, plus learning how to handle the freedom and the choices in an alternative school environment and learning how to handle them responsibly. The director of the Foundation Circle is shown there, Sharon Johnson, and she's done just an outstanding job in putting that together. This is the biology lab. Interesting recycling of resources here. The equipment in the biology lab is the old College of Racine equipment, so it really is top quality equipment. The sciences are a very important part of our program at Walden. One of our strengths, along with mathematics, the humanities, the fine arts, and the social sciences. Here is the next room down the hall, actually, the chemistry room. And the instructor here is carrying on a chemistry class, Tom Myers, who does a fine job. And like all Walden teachers, Tom teaches a lot of other things in addition to chemistry. And in this room are materials used for teaching a number of different kinds of courses. I'm not sure if we have shots of the ceiling, but if we do, you may see a few of the various kinds of flying machines that are up there. Tom teaches a course occasionally called Flying It, where he gets into the principles of aerodynamics. And here is somebody we both know running the recording studio at Walden. A unique feature of the Walden program is our close to professional quality recording studio. Scott Curdy in the picture here is very knowledgeable about handling the technicalities, and in fact later on in this show some of the camera work is done by Scott. Another feature of Walden is that within reason students can decorate the environment. This is a mural at the end of one of the halls, and sort of symbolic of Walden, where on the right we have a Walden student climbing the mountain and the rest of the herd walking down below. Here's some samples of some artwork done from one of our crafts areas, weaving. And actually this is an advertisement for a course. The teacher who teaches the course is advertising this for second semester. Full title of Walden III is Walden III in the Process of Discovery. And the name of Walden I think we'll want to go into a little bit later in the program because it does take some time. Here we have a crafts area, a student operating a bandsaw and actually is cutting out plastic letters at that point. And this is our all-purpose crafts room where we're able to do light metalworking and woodworking. We also do ceramics, a number of other things in here. And at this point, the teacher is having an individual conference with one of his home group students. Perhaps you can see some of the products, or at least the work area. Here's another one of the areas that students have decorated. A murals class decorated the hallway leading up to the school cafeteria and makes it look quite realistic, perhaps too realistic. But it's certainly an outstanding and we think decorative type of approach and gives students an investment in their school. One thing that we have found about alternative schools around the country is that when students do have an investment in the environment of their program, things like vandalism, theft, destruction of facilities and that kind of thing are greatly decreased. This is the Walden print shop. If you can read the fine print there, it says that this shop is run by King Kong. People in the community will remember Gerald Kongstevet, who teaches at Walden and who runs this area. Print shop is an important part of Walden. We print many of our materials in here. These are plates from past yearbooks. Walden III is the only school, to my knowledge, that entirely prints its own yearbook, and it is a quality yearbook, and we've done that since the first year back in 1972. And in general, we've done it on these rather modest facilities that we have here, and it's an outstanding experience for the students. They get a chance to design their own yearbook. Every student has a chance to even design a part of a page. The print shop allows students to take on special responsibilities. We have students who have been trained in this print shop who now work out in the community and who are just expert at handling the entire graphic arts process. It's also an area where students get to teach students, which is an important part of the Walden program.
Walden is an incredibly diversified community unto itself, I'd say. Could you go into the name of the school?
Well, when we first started, Mary Jo, in 1972, the original name was simply the Racine Alternative High School. During the first semester, I think it was, of that year, the same Gerald Kongstevet that I mentioned proposed the idea, the name Walden III in the Process of Discovery Here. The first Walden was a book written by Henry David Thoreau, whom some folks will remember back in the 1830s, retired to Walden Pond, and wrote a book called Walden about the importance of following your own dreams, following your own ideas, being a strong individual. The famous Different Drummer quote comes from that book. The second book in the Walden series is a book by B.F. Skinner called Walden II, in which B.F. Skinner used what some of us would call, or at least he advocated the use of brainwashing techniques in order to build a perfect utopian environment. Walden III didn't want really to do either one of those. We liked some of the ideas of Henry David Thoreau, but we didn't like the idea of going off by yourself and removing yourself from society. We certainly didn't like the idea of brainwashing people. And so from that comes the idea of Walden III in the Process of Discovery. And the program is a program that continuously looks to improve, to experiment, to try new things, in short, to discover what's the best way to do secondary education.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this message with more on Walden III.
Now, at Southeastern Savings, you can save towards your retirement and pay less taxes with one great plan, the IRA. The new IRA tax laws makes it possible for every working man and woman to benefit from the tax-deferred individual retirement account. You can now contribute up to $2,000 a year, and you'll be amazed at how fast your money grows. Stop in today. Talk to the experts at Southeastern Savings for the facts on your retirement account. Southeastern Savings, people investing in people.
Hi, we're here with Dr. Parker, from director of Walden III. And what is the makeup of the school? How many students?
Well, we have about 380 students this year, and in fact, we're the only public high school that grew in enrollment this year. And any student within the Unified School District is eligible to come to Walden III. We have grades 7 through 12, as I mentioned before, which is a unique aspect of Walden, combining those people together. We have 22 professional staff members and also secretarial and clerical staff. And also we have access on a part-time basis to various district services such as school psychologist, social worker, that sort of thing. The program, as we said, has been in existence for 10 years, but it's only been in the last years that the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th graders have been part of the program. And some people have wondered whether or not it's a good idea to mix the junior high with the senior high kids. We think it's a good idea. We think that the good kinds of things, the good role models that older kids have to offer to younger kids are really important, and I think we're going to see an example of that in a few minutes, in a few seconds actually. We're going to present our band, one of our school music organizations, known as the HHB.
Which actually put out an album last year.
And that HHB stands for the Horicon Horns Band. And people wonder, I suppose, where that title came from. And in a way, it's kind of an unfortunate name and one that I unfortunately came up with. But I think the kids have become proud of it. The reason behind it is that when this organization first started, back when we first moved into the Franklin building, with the 7th and 8th graders, the 9th and 10th graders, along with the 11th and 12th graders, when the first rehearsal was held, I heard a sound as they were beginning to practice that reminded me faintly of the geese at the Horicon Marsh, and went upstairs, and sure enough, the band was beginning its very first rehearsal. Well, the outstanding work of our music director, R.E.A.L, Clausen, led me to eat those words, because we now have an outstanding musical group. But nevertheless, they've kept the HHB name and that logo. And at this time, we're going to hear a segment taken during their actual music period, performance of one of their numbers. The band has about 20 members. It includes 3 vocalists. It also includes sound technicians that travel with the band. And the camera work on this particular segment is done by Mary Jo's brother. So with that, here are the Horicon Horns.
One, two, one.
We'll be right back after this message with more on Walden 3.
Now, at Southeastern Savings, you can save towards your retirement and pay less taxes with one great plan, the IRA. The new IRA tax laws makes it possible for every working man and woman to benefit from the tax-deferred individual retirement account. You can now contribute up to $2,000 a year, and you'll be amazed at how fast your money grows. Stop in today. Talk to the experts at Southeastern Savings for the facts on your retirement account. Southeastern Savings, people investing in people.
If you'd like to hear more of the Horicon Horn Band, they'll be at the Regency Mall this Friday evening. Now, how about the alternative difference? What makes Walden 3 so different from usual schools?
Well, I think we could see in some ways from the things in the tape that we're not completely different with things like musical organizations and physical education, science, libraries, and all that sort of thing. But there really are two purposes of alternative schools that I think speak to the difference. One of the purposes of alternative schools, and this is sometimes overemphasized, is the idea that some students need a different approach to learning, that they have a lot of potential, but that they, for one reason or another, haven't succeeded in regular environments, and so a special kind of environment is needed. But another major purpose, and really the major purpose of alternative schools back when they were begun, was to provide a better education for everyone who might be interested in selecting it. And so alternative schools, and Walden 3 is no exception in this regard, have always tried to provide the best kind of secondary education for a wide range of students and not just a special population.
In what ways would you say that Walden accomplishes this?
Well, the major difference, I would say, is based on the small size of Walden 3, the fact that we are a good deal smaller than the typical big city high school. That allows us to do a number of kinds of things. We have I believe, a much more personal student-teacher relationship. We are able to do away with some of the bureaucratic procedures that big schools need in order to keep their programs going, and can make the whole idea more informal, more personal, and can put more emphasis on personal responsibility and discipline. Students at Walden have generally more choices as far as the number of courses they can take. We come up with a new curriculum every quarter in which a substantial number of the courses are new. This is particularly true for junior high students who get more choices than they would get in conventional schools. So that idea, plus the idea that we work hard on developing self-discipline, an interest in learning, at the requirement for students to participate in the school and to play a larger role, and often to make even some significant decisions. Our government at Walden is the government of Walden. There is no such thing as the school government that's just run by students, like a student council. The government consists of staff and elected students working together, voting on and making major decisions. So that difference is important, but the small size is the thing that allows us to do most of these kinds of things. The importance of this difference, I think, is borne out nationally. We believe there are something like 7,000 alternative public high schools nationally. There's a large study going on right now to try and demonstrate what the differences are between large schools and big schools. Some research indicates that alternative schools are doing all the kinds of things that we would like any school to do, plus, and by that I guess I mean things like learning basic skills, learning subject matter knowledge, getting people ready for jobs, getting them ready for college, but also a lot of other kinds of things, developing independence, the ability to make decisions on your own. We have business people, for instance, commenting on how pleased they are that many Walden graduates are able to function on their own without constant supervision in the workplace, and we think that's a very important goal along with the basic skills. Alternatives are in the public system, I think, are real important nationally and in Racine. They're not just a frill, and some people believe that the future of public education depends on alternatives because there is a movement in this country as people drift away from the public school system and as support for public schools dwindles, to develop two separate and unequal school systems, one a private system for people who can afford it, and the other the public system for those who are left over from that. And that has been going on in the large cities a great deal.
It seems to have worked for Racine very well.
I think it has, and it's a great idea. We enjoy it.
Thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you next week.